Colour grade, no colour grade. Colour grade, no colour grade. Ah, hello. Welcome to Better Creating. My name's Simon. Today I'm going to show you how you can very simply colour grade your footage purely using an iPad. In fact, you can even do it on a mobile phone. Perhaps most excitingly, we're also going to look at how you can create your own LUTs, lookup tables, filters, whatever you want to call them, to lay over your footage. You've seen people all over the internet talking about LUTs and quick colour grades and all of that. Well, this is a means of creating your own in Affinity Photo, importing them into LumaFusion, and being able to get a custom look on your footage. Pretty cool. If you've not been on this channel before, this is all about simplifying creative life. So whatever you're doing creatively, hopefully this channel can help. It's all about productivity, creativity, simple living, and stuff around things like film and video like this. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's the easy way to just make sure my videos pop up in your feed. It's free, it's free, and it means that we just stay connected, which can only be a good thing. Today, I'm going to talk you through a couple of things. How I use F-Log and film in F-Log and why I do it. How to color correct that back to a standard profile, so you've got that better dynamic range. But also how to use Affinity Photo and LumaFusion to color grade it to a custom look. I'm going to do it quickly because I've got to go to work in a minute and it's early, so let's do it. I have been filming these videos on my channel using an iPhone and Filmic Pro for quite a while. I've just shifted over to starting to also use a new X-T4, the Fujifilm X-T4, which is what I'm filming on right now. In both of those, I film in log. Whatever you're using, log is essentially a flat color profile that allows you to capture, once edited back to a kind of Rec 709 kind of standard color profile, much more dynamic range, much more detail in the highlights and the shadows. The other great thing about filming in log is it allows us to have much more flexibility in post in terms of the kind of style or the look of the image we want to eventually end up with. So if you're filming in a standard profile, it will have a certain set of colours and kind of contrast and highlights and everything else baked into it. Now you can of course adjust it and you can do things. But what's great about log is I can do things like kind of specific colour adjustments. I can get a really different look and creating LUTs in Affinity Photo to do that. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to go into LumaFusion and we're going to start a new project. So bottom left, I'm going to click on this little plus sign. My project, there it is. We're going to call this grading. Add the project with a little plus. Okay, so we need to put something in. I'm going to play with my silly opening, so I can kind of pick the bit of the clip that I want just by moving these along, and we're going to drop that by tapping on it, taking it down and dropping it into the thread. So there it is. Now there's ways to grade this. So this, if we click onto this, double tap takes us into the kind of editing suite for the clip. So we've got color and effects bottom right. That's where we're going to work. The first thing I always do is add an original levels, so I can do the main adjustments to it, and that wants to be at the top of my list. The second thing we're going to do, if we want to add a LUT, you can see here user LUTs, I can add any of these, and you can see they all do different things. Often they're quite extreme, so these are some that I've downloaded, and actually what you'd probably want to do with these is just adjust the blend. Yeah, so that's quite good, but obviously you can see at the moment, because it's if we get rid of that, log footage very, very flat. And in the original, I'm going to be able to adjust levels, contrast, and you'll see it starts to look immediately with a bit of saturation. It starts to look very different already. So that's already a really great image out of that camera. However, I'm going to reset that. The little back arrow up here will take us back. to the log version. If you go down, what you'll find in LumaFusion, if you're using Filmic Pro, there is, if I can find it, there we go, the LUTs that they offer, Filmic D-Log and D-Flat. So if you're filming using from the other video in this series using Filmic Pro, if you're filming in a log profile, Filmic D-Log will do the basic bringing it back to a kind of standard colour profile. If you're filming in flat, it would do the same. Now this footage isn't actually from Filmic Pro, but the equivalent of that is probably this, the F-Log XT4 adjustment, and that is with high dynamic range and bringing back the saturation and basically unflattening the waveform so you can see what you're looking at. So that's the basic adjustment, but you can find a kind of Rec 709 kind of standard colour correct LUT to put onto it. This would just be a really basic way to colour correct. Then I can go back to my original and from here I'm going to adjust a bit of contrast. Just adjust these levels so you can, the kind of mid-tones there, getting darker and lighter. I find very small amounts of adjustment are the right way to go. Vibrance, you'll see kind of affects the vibrancy of the colour, saturation, the amount of saturation. And then down here, we can still do quite a lot in LumaFusion, as you can see. I've got my highlight amounts and I've got my shadows. So a tiny bit more shadow I think is nice. And then down here, this is also really useful, gamma down the bottom. Can be really nice just to kind of, you can tap on these arrows as well for really precise adjustments. Really good just to bring up just a little bit of brightness into the image. You can play it, check it back, see what we think of it. It's not bad. So that's quite a good example of where you might leave this just simply with either Filmic Pro or kind of specific kind of 709 correction LUT and a bit of work with the original colour palette. And you can go back in and there it is. Right, let's move on to creating our own LUTs. I'm going to show you now how to create your own LUT and then later import it in, really simply. So whether you're in your photos file, looking at the video, or in LumaFusion, double click on the image and we're going to take a screen grab of it. There we go. Now you've got an image that you can work with. I'm going to go to Affinity Photo, that's my content maker there with all the things I use to create videos. You'll see I've already been also using Affinity Photo to do a similar thing, but to grade the thumbnails. That's our last video on minimizing distractions and productivity, so check that out. Now, if we just go back out, we're going to need to create a new file. Import from Photos, there's the picture of me, click on it, and in it comes. Now that is a direct screenshot of one of the frames of the video we want to grade, okay? So I'm going to click on the fourth down, the little button there, which is the adjustments. You've got loads of things. We can make it black and white if we want, so you can do that in here very easily. Brightness and contrast, I would say that things like colour balance is quite helpful. Curves we're definitely using, exposure there. You've got lens filters, levels, which was a bit like the mid-tones, the highlights and the shadows that we were messing with as well. And you've also got shadows and highlights here. Selective colour, I use vibrance and white balance. Now I think the place to start, pretty much always, in my opinion, is curves. We're going to go to curves, you're going to click on the spine. You can see a little histogram here. You can click onto the spine, put a little dot in the middle, so there's a holding point, and then here, and here. And these two that we've just created, we're going to create an S curve, because what I want to do is down here in my shadows, I want to just bring up those shadows that you can see very gently. I'm going to do the same. So we're basically kind of unflattening, if that makes sense, the curves here. And you can see how if I really push it, what it's doing. So this S is the way to start finding, just bringing back a bit of that dynamic range and depth into the image. Now you can play with this. You know, it might be that you want to try and get a steeper curve, very steep, too much the other way. Yeah, so it kind of messes with it. Just for today, you have a play, but I'm gonna leave it more or less there because there are other places we can start to adjust. Good, that's that. Now you'll see if I now click up onto my layers, there's my curves adjustment. If you want to go back to curves, don't go back into here and click another one because you'll add a second. Go up to your layers and re-click on curves to adjust it. Brightness and contrast. So where is that? There it is. Brightness and contrast. Now it's a little simpler, this one. You can work in a linear way, but we're just going to do here, you can see I can just bring out the contrast. Now with LUTs, you're creating a filter that can be adjusted overall for its intensity. So you might find you want to go a little bit too far, just so you've got a bit of flexibility to play with. It's up to you, but I often find that's quite a nice thing to do. So I'm really pumping the contrast on this one, just to give you that example. Vibrancy, which is essentially your saturation. If I take my saturation up, you'll see, there I go, I'm looking very yellow indeed. Vibrancy makes the colours really pop. So, I mean, I want a bit of vibrancy in there. I think maybe take that to like 10, generally. So what you could do is grade this to exactly how you want it to look. You know, I quite like it not being too saturated. It's obviously very desaturated from being a log footage, but I say that's pretty good. However, you might want to go really high so you've got more to play with, and you can always reduce it later. Oh, we should say white balance down the bottom. I'm quite happy with the white balance, but you can see you can go to magenta, bring out the greens, go to green, bring out the magenta. So it just allows you to find that. If you're just feeling, oh, it's looking a little bit green, just want to adjust it. Literally 1 or 2 points will make a difference. You're also able to type this in, yeah? So I can do things like that. But the balance, warmth, coolness, so towards tungsten, towards daylight. Now my favourite thing to play with if you really want to get a custom kind of feel to it is selective colour. And that's the last one we're going to talk about. Selective colour, I'm looking at the reds or the yellows or the greens, and it means you can just adjust those on the colour spectrum of that area. It's also got in here blues, magentas, whites, neutrals. Now neutrals will probably be the most obvious adjustment. So if I take my cyan and take that up, everything goes blue. Yeah, you can see that the neutrals change colour. So that's interesting for kind of bigger adjustments. If I want to kind of make my whites much cooler, I can do that. You see how you're starting to see a kind of change of quality. So for example, I might want to just up, for the fun today, up the blues and the whites a little bit. And if it's not doing it much, kind of leave it, otherwise on different images it might have a different effect. And you can just play with it. So blues, you can adjust the blues. If there's not much blue in there, it's not going to do very much. We can adjust neutrals, blacks. You can just work out where you see the magenta into the black there on the iPad. Greens, it's all too much, but just finds you that nice balance. I mean, I would say that if you've got a good camera, trust your camera. If you've got a good profile, let's say that we're happy with that image for now, and we want to export it. All of those layers are now going to be exported. So we're going to go up to the top left, click on the little file button, export LUT. You're going to name it. It's a .cube file, that's what you want. That's compatible with many programs, but particularly LumaFusion. Up the quality, if you've got the space, I'm going to go up and export it. There it is, it's going into my LUTs file on my iPad and my assets file, save. There it goes. Now, let's have a look. Back to LumaFusion. That was the original, you can see the difference. Let's now show you how to import the LUT and use it. So there are a number of ways that you can import these files. So you can see here, I've gone into color and effects. I've clicked on import presets, and you can import from files. Let's see if it works. I'm going to click on files. I'm going to go to assets, iPads. I'm going to go to LUTs, and in that file we should see test example. There it is. And it might have worked, you know? There it is. And you can see very simply, that's it. I can add the blend onto it. And to be honest, that's not bad at all. So there is, now you'll see, because I upped everything, as you adjust it, you'll lose contrast as much as you'll lose saturation. But that's not too bad. I'm going to go to there. I'm going to get a kind of level that I think is kind of working. That for me is too much. But let's have it about 50%. I'm then going to add, so that's my test example. I'm going to add an original. I want to move that above, so it's adjusting everything. Click into here, and in here you can do your tiny adjustments, just like we did before. So we can, again, play with what we want to do. Now you'll see there's probably less you need to do. but we can add a bit of contrast to it if we want. We can increase the saturation or reduce the saturation and actually play around. So the combination of those, that's what's so great about this. Yeah, that's why you've got so much flexibility. So here I might want to put the blend right up, go back to the original, take the saturation out and have quite a contrasty image. It gives you so much flexibility to play with. You can do bigger adjustments of colour here. I'd be really careful with it. I don't think it's very, it does the whole image and it's a little bit much. And very quickly you can have graded your footage as you want it to be. And then colour grade, no colour grade, colour grade, no colour grade. It's worth saying, finally, that this could be saved as a preset. So this whole thing now, the original and the thing, I can now click here, save the effect as a preset, and then that will turn up under the stars button. So these are some of the grades that I've used before for other stuff, and then you've got everything together you can just lay over as a preset. This is a really useful little trick. If for any reason you're having trouble importing LUTs and they won't load up, you're going to click into Files. I'm going to click on my test example LUT. I'm going to click here to share it, move across to More, and then you can open in LumaFusion. If you're finding that your LUTs are appearing as Affinity Photo files for some reason, and they'll only open in Affinity Photo early on, do it like this, and then everything should then be able to be imported into LumaFusion. Little trick just to save you some hassle. That took a while to work out. Okay. Well, there you go, Affinity Photo and LumaFusion to create your own custom color grade. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, comment below what else you'd like to see on the channel, and do share this video with a friend if you think they'd find it useful. Finally, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It's one of the best ways that you can stay connected. It's free, it means my videos pop up in your feed. And what's brilliant for me is you're helping this channel grow and helping the content rise to the top of the lists. So I really appreciate all your support. I am now going to run away. I've got to go and rehearse a production that I'm working on. I'm working full time this month, which has been a little while since with all the COVID restrictions. We're filming a theatre production, quite an interesting thing to be doing. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. But I've got to go because it's early and I'm going to be late for rehearsals. So until next time, get outside. Enjoy the fresh air, have fun colour grading whatever footage it is that you're colour grading, and whatever happens, I'll see you later.